Hello, I'm Dragon Blitz, and this is a commentary for the Castlevania Symphony of the Night randomizer as a speedrun. But before I can talk about speedrunning the randomizer, I'm going to talk about what the randomizer actually is and how it is that we are playing it currently. So this is the Castlevania Symphony of the Night integrated randomizer created by Mozilla. This is essentially a ROM hack of the game that has all of the possible randomization options packed onto a single ROM of the game, which is honestly incredible because there's like tons and tons and tons of optimizations. You can enter in a specific seed if you want to race or guarantee that you're playing the same seed as somebody else. There are different presets available, which I'll talk about in a second, that change up the gameplay drastically. And then there are a ton of just different randomization options available as well. You can randomize things like the relics that exist in the game, the starting gear, the enemy drop tables can get randomized, the items that you find lying around in the stages that can be randomized, shop items, the money and sub-weapons that drop from candles. Turkey mode guarantees that the sub-weapon vats that exist in the alchemy lab in the first castle and in the reverse marble gallery, those are replaced with turkeys that cannot actually be acquired. This essentially guarantees that you don't get access to very overpowered sub-weapons guaranteed in specific spots, so you actually have to go out and find those sub-weapons. You can randomize the colors. This is a great quality of life option here. The flash removal, because Symphony of the Night is a game that has a lot of flashing lights in it with certain items, but this allows you to use those items without destroying people's eyeballs. It's very nice. There is a built-in map tracker as well as relic tracker inside the randomizer itself. So I'm using an external manual tracker as well, so that way I can keep track of what's going on. But also that is kept track of in-game with the press of a button. Very, very cool. And there are also a lot of really cool quality of life options on top of that. So there's anti-freeze, which is anytime you gain a level up or collect a key item like a life max up, a heart max up, or a relic, the screen will freeze for about a second and a half. This just removes that entirely, makes the gameplay a little bit snappier. Very nice. Godspeed Boots is a hacked version of running in this game. Essentially, you can double tap to run it as Alucard, which you can't normally do in the vanilla version of the game. We can remove death entirely, so your starting gear is kept throughout the entirety of the randomizer. Very cool option. Reverse library card allows you to have the library card take you both to the library in the first castle, but also the library in the second castle as well, so long as you have access to the second castle by saving Richter. Magic max up, this replaces heart max ups with a magic version of that, so it increases your total MP amount, which is much more useful for randomizers. Infinite Wing Smash allows the Wing Smash to act as if it is the Sega Saturn version of the game. You do one Wing Smash input and you just fly forever, where that is not the case in the vanilla version of the PlayStation version of the game, which is what this is built off of. We are playing the PlayStation version of the game. This is built on the PlayStation version of the game. Library shortcut adds a shortcut in the library itself, which is very cool. It like modifies the actual map layout. It's pretty interesting. Drops always and guaranteed drops are almost the same thing. It essentially guarantees that something will drop from enemies. Drops always means that it can be money, it can be hearts, or it can be their item tables. And guaranteed drops make sure that it's always the common and rare item drop. These are the most interesting ones, and these are the ones that I personally think could be a interesting incentive for a marathon run, where after meeting some sort of goal, we can randomize the starting location of the game, which adds a wide amount of variety. So I'm just going to turn these on to showcase the types of interesting situations that can come from this. I think there's like over 80 different starting locations if you turn them both on. Starting in the second castle in particular is very, very interesting because of the way that the game has to be changed to allow for that. It's very fun. Skipping prologue just makes the game a little bit snappier. You start the actual game as Alucard faster. That's a very nice quality of life option. You can randomize enemy stats. You can put on different challenge modes as well, removing different items from the pool, stuff like that. But for today, I'm going to be skipping the prologue, randomizing our starting location, and then keeping all of the other... I'll turn on anti-freeze as well, just because it makes the game a little bit faster. And then everything else... We're going to do Magic Max. Sorry, I forgot that as well. The Magic Max up is very cool with a custom sprite as well. Everything else I'm going to keep kind of like default. So we're going to run with that. The other thing that I think could be fun is having some sort of bid war for the different types of presets we can play. There are 3 presets in particular that are very popular right now. They're part of our race tournament stuff that's been going on in the community, and they all revolve around different transformations, so you can just vote for which transformation you would like to see. For example, Lycanthrope revolves entirely around the wolf transformation. This has been seen at GDQ, for example, already back in 2023. And it's very, very fun. Lots of cool movement options. Warlock is the mist version of that. You start with mist form. The spell costs are reduced, so you're going to be seeing a lot more magic spells for combat. Very different play style. And then Nimble Light is the bat version of that, where you start in bat. You start with bat in a bunch of different movement options, and the movement cost, or the MP cost for the movement options, is essentially free. So I'm going to play just standard, because the standard is the base that all the other randomizers are built off of, and I get to explain more about how the randomizer works in its entirety in this preset. But realistically, any of the presets are going to follow based off of this, just with additional starting options or slightly modified movement options. But let's go ahead and get into it. All of my options are correct, so we are done there, and we just hit randomize here. And then the game should launch. It'll tell you the seed number and all this other stuff, and let's get into it. Any second now. I mean, it's literally randomizing the game on a PlayStation. It's using the PlayStation hardware to shuffle around the different stuff inside the game and randomizing it. Very, very cool. Alrighty. And now that we have randomized the game and have booted into it, let's go ahead and get started here in... Ooh, let me get the timer going. 3, 2, 1, go. So yeah, my plan is to just play through the entirety of this randomizer and comment on the different strategies that evolved or have evolved over the years when it comes to speedrunning the randomizer, and all the different interesting options that we have discovered as a community. Starting with random cape color, that's very, very fun. Always nice to have. So we have all these randomized items here as our starting gear. Nothing too amazing, to be honest with you. Pretty middling options, but... Ooh, interesting. So this is our starting location. This is what happens with the randomized starting location, is you have a singular room that you start in, and then as soon as you leave that room, it loads into a load zone that then warps you to a new location. So here we are in the start of the alchemy lab. This is the turkey mode active here. These are just turkeys that don't do anything. But since I'm here, and because it put me in a room that I normally do not have access to, you normally can't jump up high enough to get there, the Jewel of Open that I acquired, which I'll add to the tracker here, which I could also open here. This is the relic tracker that appears on screen. With the Jewel of Open, I have access to things in the caverns. There's a switch that you can press that is blocked by a blue door. You need Jewel of Open to open that blue door. But I'm not actually going to be going there right away, because I'm not normally supposed to be able to get up there. The only reason we grabbed that is because of the random starting location, and the in-game logic is essentially unaware of your starting location. The starting location randomization is doesn't really care about the in-game logic. There are ways that the game has been modified to make sure you can't soft lock regardless, so you're not going to have to worry about something like that, but the logic doesn't really care that we have access to this Jewel of Open yet. So I'm aware that this Jewel of Open is not supposed to be in my inventory, so I'm not going to essentially go to the locations that are unlocked by it right away until I have more options, because I know that the ability to get up there has to be available before the Jewel of Open is available in logic. Pretty standard randomizer stuff. This Symphony of the Night randomizer as well works on a complexity system. This is essentially the same exact idea behind like spheres of progression, or I've heard it referred to as like trees or branches or whatever. In this community, we just call it the complexity system, often referred to as complexity chains. So the different presets all have different like minimum numbers of steps that are required in order to have the game be completable. This just guarantees that the randomizer has some variety and things aren't just completely random. So for this preset, the standard preset, we have 8 steps. I can actually see the relic in the underneath the stairs down here in the bottom left. I see that it's a familiar card, so I'm just going to turn around and leave. So the complexity system allows runners to essentially use the logic of the randomizer to their advantage to be able to understand which relics are possible where after doing a couple of checks. So what I was talking about earlier with the Jewel of Open being in a high up place, that tells me that the complexity chain doesn't start with Jewel of Open, because that would be impossible to get it. So there's going to be something before Jewel of Open available to me that I'm going to collect, and then that will allow me to collect Jewel of Open. As at minimum, layer 2 is often the terminology used. You can talk about it as like different layers. You can talk about it as like steps in like a step ladder. So like step 1 will be something like gravity boots. That would give me access to that location. And that would make Jewel of Open step 2. And then everything behind Jewel of Open will become step 3. Anything that we find back there, that is. Since we have Jewel of Open early, I am actually going to press the switch now. This is the switch that gives us access to the caverns, but I'm not going to go down there quite yet because the seed might want us to have other movement options available first. This does open up this little spot here. I'm going to grab this Morning Star. It's just a different weapon that might do slightly more damage for the boss coming up here. On top of all this randomization stuff, the other thing that's important to talk about in Symphony of the Night is just like the general speedrunning mechanics. The main movement option that you see me doing all the time here is called shield dashing. Here I'm using spell invincibility to get past this enemy because it's going to be faster than trying to kill them. I do miss out on potential item drops by not killing enemies, but it's, you know, risk-reward type of thing. Item drops are relatively rare, so you usually don't like bank on getting drops from enemies in order to go fast. Red Rust, unfortunately, one of the worst weapons in the game. Very unlucky hit there. Oops. But yeah, shield dashing, very important way of moving fast throughout the game. You backdash, cancel the backdash by pulling up the shield, and then backdash again, and you just repeat that over and over and over again. It's going to be the primary way we move around unless we have some other movement options. The other presets that exist in this game, like the Nimble Light, the Lycanthrope, the Warlock, give you access to different movement options as well, which from the very start, which opens up the game's movement possibilities. Here I'm just going to put on the Morning Star for this doppelganger fight because it's just going to do more damage. The most consistent way to kill this guy is to essentially just attack him over and over again. Oops. Usually with jumping attacks because it lets his AI be a little bit more docile. But I was jumping from the wrong position, which is how he was able to kind of counterattack. That being a meal ticket is unfortunate. So there are items in this game that have the same exact sprite as each other. The meal ticket is an item that you throw it out and it spawns a random food item, which generally is pretty useless. But it shares the same exact sprite as the library card, which is one of the most important items of the game. So anytime you see one lying on the ground, it's just a 50-50, essentially, as to which one it is. Ooh, Tooth of Vlad there, nice. So Tooth of Vlad is one of the 5 required relics known as the Vlad relics. So I guess I must barely not have enough MP to use a Soul Steal here, right? That's fine. Ooh, nice. And we have Medusa Shield up here. I messed up the jump. Let's go. There, I'm trying to jump mid-air. You have 7 frames after walking or backdashing off of a ledge to jump. Those like coyote frames are very important for making certain things easier or possible. Here I'm grabbing this warp because it's going to allow me to warp back here later. Once you enter a warp room, that warp is then saved for you to come back to later. There we go. Yeah, so the Vlad relics, you need all 5 of them in order to have access to the final boss of the game in the second castle. So the win condition of any randomizer essentially is all 5 Vlad relics plus holy glasses to get access to the second castle, and then some form of flight to allow you to traverse the second castle. That is essentially go mode in any randomizer situation. So for us, getting one of the Vlad relics right now is nice. The way the complexity system works as well is, generally speaking, the final step of complexity is going to be a Vlad relic, like 99% of the time. So oftentimes we're looking for that final Vlad as our win condition, and that will be on step number 8 or higher technically. The randomizer can very rarely produce seeds that are slightly higher complexity than the minimum, but generally it's usually just the minimum. The other thing we just grabbed was the gravity boots relic, which is very nice, and then gold ring. Gravity boots gives us access to a large vertical jump, which allows us to get access to like higher up places. This is what the seed wanted us to have to grab that Jewel of Open earlier. We also used it to grab this gold ring. Gold ring in combination with silver ring allows you to check the item at the Holy Glasses location. So I'm going to keep that in mind for the future.
I'm interested in this.
The shop also sells a relic here. It's the Fairy Scroll, which is essentially useless for speedruns. It just tells us the name of enemies. But while I'm here, I am going to check out the items available. We saw Mana Prisms. Those are very useful. Girthing, a fantastic weapon. Masamune, a fantastic weapon. We don't have a lot of money, but we might come back here later. So I just want to keep track of those options. Varda, best equipment item in the game. Increases all of your stats by like 30. So 2 of those, you just are at minimum plus 60 in all of your stats. It's incredibly overpowered. But yeah, so far the seed wanted us to grab the gravity boots like we did, and then step 2 is grab the Jewel of Open, which we have already done, which is nice. So now the seed is kind of funneling us into the caverns. Generally speaking, when you find a progression item, in order to complete the next step, you just go to the location that is unlocked by that progression item, and you follow that chain sequentially. Every once in a while, you can get access to doing things out of logic, by essentially bypassing certain things or doing certain tech options. These green dots on the map, by the way, are the locations of all of the different relic locations that we want to have access to. So I did leave behind a check in the alchemy lab that I can go for now, but it is probably in my best interest to do that later. So instead, I'm going to go down to the caverns, because that seems to be what the seed wants from us. So we're going to do a little bit of backtracking here, which is pretty standard for early game randomizer playthroughs. Very rarely do you get access to out-of-logic movement options, but the out-of-logic movement options can be incredibly powerful. For example, the way that the randomizer handles its logic is essentially that of someone who is playing the game essentially for the first time or who has like minimal knowledge of the game. Oh! Okay, that's a huge random drop. So you remember how I said that that's like the best item in the game? Having that randomly drop from an enemy is pretty good. That's honestly pretty good. Awesome. We take those. We indeed take those. Harper as well. Okay. Let's go. I'm going to put on the Medusa shield as well now. It's a shield that can do damage to enemies, and my stats are high enough that I'll probably one-shot a lot of enemies with it, which is very, very nice. Harper is just a very solid standard sword with good stats, and a good hitbox as well. There are different weapons in this game that have what are usually called like a good or a bad hitbox when it comes to swords. Swords with a good hitbox can hit twice per swing if you jump slash with them. So those are usually pretty nice to have. The other thing that's interesting about this randomizer is some of the locations that have the potential to have relics are what are called guarded locations. So the randomizer adds these locations that aren't in the vanilla game as relic locations, this being one of them. This Scylla boss fight normally doesn't have any sort of relic or important item behind it, but it being a room that is locked by a boss fight makes it kind of like the perfect location to have additional relics behind, which is very, very cool. So this guarded option means that all of the bosses in the game essentially are either relic checks on their own or guard a relic check, which just gives you more reason to explore more of the game. It's very, very cool. Power of Mist is an interesting relic. It does nothing on its own, but in combination with the Form of Mist, gives you access to flight, which is very cool. It also gives you just the ability to fly around in mist form, where you're fully invincible, which is also very, very cool. One of the things I'm going to be doing here is called a save split. Essentially, I am splitting off a different run of my character here. I'm going to be running here to the left and doing a relic check to see what it is. If it isn't important to me, I can then reset the game and go back to that location, saving me a lot of backtracking time, especially because the location I'm going to... Okay, this toad is too powerful. Requires that I jump down a waterfall, so I won't be able to get back up unless I acquire some form of flight. So with that in mind, I'm just going to run past this bridge. We do have access to breaking that bridge right now with a developer debug code, essentially by pressing triangle on player 2. I'm going to grab this. Just kidding. Okay, it could have been a useful item. By pressing triangle on player 2, we can kind of trick the game into breaking that bridge. Okay, duplicator is... Remember how I said Varda's the best item in the game? A duplicator is actually the best item in the game, for the reason that it allows you to infinitely use single-use items. So this is a very, very good seed. Very good seed. Let me skip that cutscene. Yeah. Pretty good. Here I'm just like kind of forced to ride the boat here. I could run in the water, but I'll take damage because I don't have access to the snorkel, which gives me immunity to water damage. So I'm just forced to ride this boat ride. I might have been able to survive it, but my HP is, you know, relatively low. And you take damage very, very fast in water. And nothing here. So unfortunately, we kind of got a little owned coming down here the way that we did, but it's okay. I'm just going to soft reset now. This means we are losing out on our duplicator, but we do know where it is, so we can come back for it later, which is nice, because we don't really have anything we would want to use with the duplicator quite yet. So that is the usefulness of a save split. You get to get information about the seed, and then you save a bunch of time with backtracking, so not bad. Not bad at all. We still have our Varda, which is very, very, very strong. Again, like the duplicator is very powerful, but it's only as powerful as the items you are able to duplicate. And as it stands right now, we don't have a lot of fantastic options. This spell, by the way, is the Hellfire spell. I'm just canceling it early. That is a mechanic that exists in the game where you can cancel some spells by like holding down. And Hellfire is one of the more useful ones. There we go. Press triangle on player 2. That breaks open the bridge. So having a second controller plugged in is like kind of mandatory if you want to be able to do this stuff. So this stuff, everything down here is out of logic now, because the randomizer logic does not assume that you know that you can press triangle on player 2. But it's probably the easiest way to get out of logic. But it's also just useful because there's a lot of checks down here that I would want to get access to. And the other thing I want to get access to is a warp down here so I can come back later. Here we have to wait for this door to open very slowly. There's also a relic check down here as well. Go ahead and move through here. There we go. So we're still kind of in the early stages of the randomizer, trying to just gain some knowledge about the seed and what it wants from us. And Fantastic Leapstone is right here. Awesome. So this gives us access to flight now, so we can now chain gravity jumps. Before, with just gravity boots on its own, you can only do singular gravity jump. Now we can chain them into essentially flying around. Very, very useful. Let's go ahead and add that to the tracker. I'm not missing anything on the tracker, right? No, I am not. Cool. So now that I have access to double jump, I have also access to a dive kick, which is really cool. And the dive kick can be useful for different movement options like the sliding that you can do. If you dive kick into the ground and then have no inputs on the D-pad as you touch the ground, if you dive kick low enough to the ground, you'll do what's called a front slide. The other thing that's nice about this dive kick is it is the thing that allows us to chain gravity jumps. So essentially being in a state where you are able to dive kick is what allows you to gravity jump midair. So what a lot of people don't realize is you actually need to double jump first before being able to chain your gravity jumps. That's why it doesn't work in a lot of situations. I'll grab this for now just to showcase some stuff later. But essentially this is Echo of Bat, a useless relic for speedrunners, but is the randomizer's logical way of getting to the spike breaker location. We have ways of getting around needing it, but it'll be useful. This right here is one of those mana max ups, the MP max ups. Those are nice because now my MP is slightly higher. I think it increases it by 3 every time you pick one up. It also has a custom sprite, which is cool. So yeah, our movement capabilities are a lot better now. So we just want to be using those to the best of our ability, combining our different movement options, our different combat options, doing some extra item checks behind some breakable walls. Very cool stuff. This is where Symphony of the Night gets to be very, very fun, is when you're combining different combinations of movement options to do all sorts of cool and unique movement through the castle. Here, our combat is going to be very, very powerful. Like, yeah, these bosses do not stand a chance. The Varda is increasing our damage output by a lot. And on top of that, combat in Symphony of the Night is already relatively, like, as long as you get a decent weapon, you can do some good stuff. You always have access to these innate spells that Alucard can do, and those spells are very, very useful. Oh, and we just got the best relic in the game. There we go. Soul of Bat. So now we can transform into bat form and do all sorts of cool stuff. We also have a mana prism, which is fantastic as well. There we go. So yeah, the bat form allows us to do a spell called Wing Smashing. It's the fastest way to move around the game, generally speaking. And you're going to be seeing me do it a lot. Meal ticket, dang. I really want that to be a library card. The other thing that we found here was a mana prism, which is an item that allows you to refill your mana to full. That plus the duplicator is one of the most powerful movement options in the game, because it'll allow me to do wing smashes over and over and over again. And alongside that, I can just refill my MP once my MP is gone, and then do more wing smashes. And there's Form of Mist. Okay, so I think the intended chain of logic right now is that step 1, it wanted us to get gravity boots. Step 2, it wanted to use the gravity boots to be able to go to the clock tower here. Normally you need either like a double jump or some extra movement to get from clock tower to Castle Keep. And now that we have Mist, the game wants us to use that Mist to I assume the game wants us to use that Mist to go to the Soul of Bat location to find some way to gain access to the mines, because we got access to the mines out of logic. So I'm guessing the chain currently is step 1, gravity boots. Step 2, Mist. Step 3, power of Mist. There we go. Okay, now I understand it. Counting complexity is like one of the best ways of understanding like what you need to do and where you need to go next. So as it stands right now, Jewel of Open and Mist were on the same step. They were at the same layer of being able to be acquired, so you can count them together. Just had to break the bridge again. So it was step 1, gravity boots. Step 2, Mist and Jewel of Open. Step 3, I believe, was power of Mist, because we found power of Mist here in the caverns, which was locked behind Jewel of Open. So that gave us our flight. Step 4 is anything that is behind flight right now, which would be Bat. And then we already had access to Echo. So step 5 is probably the Spikebreaker location, so I'm going to go there next. I also just wanted to grab the duplicator now, and I get to showcase how incredibly powerful it is. Oh, and I have a fantastic throwing weapon as well. These throwing weapons are usually reserved for like, oh, I only have a couple of these. I don't want to use them except for versus like boss fights or doing a lot of damage all at once. So they have a high damage stat. But you can only throw them once and then they're gone forever. But with the duplicator, you can kind of spam them. And on top of that, they act very similarly to a shield, which allows you to backdash cancel with them. So they're both a good movement option for backdash canceling and for damaging enemies, which is very nice because it allows you to hold the mana prism on your other hand and use those infinitely. So the only thing we're missing right now, because we're going to be passing by a lot of very powerful items and not stopping for them, because at this point we're good on damage. We're good on damage. We're good on utility. The only thing we want now is a library card, so that way we can kind of route teleporting to the library into our speedrun here. But until we find one of those, we kind of have to just go through the castle manually and not really warp around as much outside of the actual warp rooms. So if we didn't have Echo, there are setups to get through this spike room without needing to turn the lights on like this. And I'll showcase what that looks like. I have a setup to get into this position in bat form, and then if you wing smash straight up from here, just kidding, I was slightly off. It would look like this. Wing smash from here, straight up. You take damage, you transform into bat, fly straight up to avoid more spikes, and then you just wing smash down. I said you just wing smash down. Perfect, first try. Zero problems had there. But there's a million different ways to get through that spike room. without needing the Echo of Bat to see what you're doing. So it's one of the easiest like out of logic things to do, and makes for very interesting randomizer situations where you know you're out of logic doing this check, but it's such a interesting check to do early that you want to go for it. So we just got Holy Glasses. This is our ability to get to second castle now. So here's the thing. This is where the decision-making gets very, very interesting in my opinion, because we could just go to the second castle right now and start exploring it. Here I'm going to transform into Mist because my HP is a little bit low, and just maneuver through the spike room in the dark. There we go. So one of the things we can do is Soul Steal here to regain all of our health. It's one of the easiest ways to trade your magic for HP. So I did that to refill my health. This could be, yeah, Alucard Shield. It's the one thing better than the current weapon that I have now. If I find a Shield Rod or a Maulblung Shield to combo with it, but I'll explain that if it comes up. So as far as routing goes, I'm in an interesting situation where I have one Vlad Relic now, but I need 5 in order to beat the game. The final Vlad Relic is going to be at the final step of the complexity chain, usually on step number 8. So I'm going to be counting to 8 to figure out what is available on step number 8 and go there. Essentially, the way I see it is there's a couple of different options, but I'm pretty sure step 8 is going to be the Silver Ring location, or it's going to be, yeah, I think it's just going to be the Silver Ring location, which is a spot that we technically have access to right now, but the game assumes that you need Spike Breaker in order to access it. So sadly, Power of Wolf is not that useful for us, but we'll move on. It's an upgrade to the Wolf movement abilities, but we don't have the Wolf transformation yet, so we can't use it. So we're in a spot now where we want to find all of the other Vlad Relics, and they can just be random, essentially. Like, the logic doesn't care where the Vlad Relics are, except for the final one. The final one is the only one that has some sort of weight to it, because that is considered your go mode. Every once in a while, you'll have multiple Vlad Relics on the same layer, and that is also go mode, but it's more common that it's just exactly one. So right now, the way I see it is I have access to a location that is normally guarded by a lot of different item and relic combinations that I can do out of logic. So that means it's a higher likelihood to be a higher step in the complexity chain. Therefore, I should check it first, and that's going to be Silver Ring. So what I'm going to do now is go back to Castle Entrance. Just warp back there now. Also, the warp speed is heavily sped up in the randomizer. It's another quality of life option. Those warp animations are much slower in the vanilla game. So I'm going to go back to the very start of the game because there is a check there, and that has the chance to be a random Vlad Relic. So I'm going to go out of my way for that. There we go. The Wing Smash that's happening here, the invincible tackle you see me doing right now in bat form, it's a relatively technical input. You have to do a jump input, hold jump, do a 3/4 circle motion on the controller, and then let go of the jump button. You have to do that all in under 1 second. And then you have to chain them over and over and over again to remain in the bat form. So I'm constantly doing this input over and over again. And the input itself does not... the game itself does not accept inputs during screen transitions. So you have to kind of pause what you're doing during a screen transition, which can lead to you dropping the input, which can be a little disastrous at times. So one of the real skill expressions of the game is being able to cleanly chain these wing smash movements over and over and over again. So we spawned in the room up there, so we know that we don't have to check that. But now we can backtrack through this room with all the buffed movement options that we have now. And honestly, we are just flying through here. It's one of the most fun things about Symphony of the Night is once you get all of these movement upgrades, you can really just start flying through rooms. So I'm going to check up here because we don't know what's here yet. And it's another familiar card. We've seen most of them now. Familiar cards are essentially junk in randomizer speedruns. They're fun little creatures that you can summon with you if you're just playing through the game casually, and they can help every once in a while, either giving you tips or helping you in combat. But generally speaking, they're useless for trying to go fast. Oops. So now that we have done all of that, we can backtrack to this like starting area, the central clock room. Above the clock room is a relic check. Below the clock room is another relic check, potentially. However, we don't have access to that until we have both gold and silver ring. So we might have to come back here later if we find the silver ring somewhere. Ooh, there we go. A random Vlad relic. Let's go. That one is definitely not the final Vlad relic because it's just available on the flight layer. As long as you can fly, you can grab that relic. And we've had flight since, I believe, layer 4, and we need to get to 8, step number 8. So that's how I know it's a random Vlad and not necessarily the final Vlad. So we're going to enter the Alrox's quarters here, where we have quite a few more checks that we can do. We could also just go to the second castle since we have holy glasses, but I want to double check all of these locations first before going to the second castle so I don't leave anything important behind. And it's also kind of on the way to this other check that I want to do. That right there is the Spirit Orb. It's completely useless. So I mean, not forget to mark the Eye of Vlad on the tracker. And I don't think I'm missing anything else on the tracker either. Cube of Zoe. I'm missing Cube of Zoe on the tracker. It's nice to have a built-in tracker. Very, very cool. Makes things a little bit easier when you're tracking things manually. Oh! Gotta love that PS1 slowdown. Here I'm just grabbing this warp room so I can have it have access to it later. Put it in the warp cycle. Nice thing about having gravity boots is it's the fastest way to climb these like large vertical shafts by chaining gravity boots over and over again. And again, all this movement costs mana. It's one of the things that makes it not completely overpowered is that you are limited by the amount of mana. Here's Kingstone. It's an item that increases my damage some more, so I might be using that at some point in the future. Probably not. Actually, since I have the Varda. Talisman back there is an item that randomly will make you immune to damage. It's funny and can save you in a pinch, but we're not gonna go out of our way for it. Here's another boss fight. This is Alrox, and our damage is just so high that we're not going to see much of him. His phase 2 has him transforming here, and he's purple. I didn't know he was purple. Wait, did they This is honestly a shock to me. I didn't know that the Alrox colors were randomized. Fun. That's very cool. Well, that's a surprise. I'll grab Skull of Wolf, because if we find the wolf transformation, I can do wolf movement, which is, in some cases, faster than bat movement, so it'll be fun to showcase that. Very, very cool. One of the things that's also nice about the Symphony of the Night movement mechanics is if you drop a wing smash, you can get right back into wing smashing by canceling a dive kick into transforming into bat, and that gives you this horizontal momentum as you transform. It's kind of a way to recover. It's also just like a good movement option for starting like a sequence of movement, because you cannot access these red doors. You can't enter the next zone while in bat form, so you have to untransform at some point. So here's the silver ring location. There's a couple different ways to do this, but wing smashing through is just fine. And then potions give you a brief period of invincibility, so I can go up against the door, use a potion for invincibility, where the game expects you to use Spike Breaker. So, oh, okay. And here, it gives us the silver ring. So now, I can pretty confidently say that the seed wants us to go to the Holy Glasses location. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to backtrack right on over there. Because I'm pretty sure that is going to be the final step in the complexity chain. I think it has to be. So if I want to guarantee that, I could just backtrack in my head what we have done so far. It was step 1, gravity boots. Step 2, jewel. Step 3, it was some form of flight. I forget which. Into step 4, bat, which was locked by flight. Step 5 gave us the holy glasses, so something is inside the second castle will be step 6. which will lead to probably Spike Breaker. So that would leave Silver Ring step 7, which leads to the final Vlad at step 8. So yeah, this is very, very, very likely the final Vlad relic, unless there is a chance that there's a different chain where the second castle instead has like the merman statue in it, and then the merman statue unlocks a location that has the final Vlad, I think. But that would only get to step 7, so I don't think that's possible, actually. Okay. Yeah. So now that we have both Gold Ring and Silver Ring, we're going to put those on. Very important that we don't throw away any of our items because we don't have the duplicator equipped. One thing you can do is obviously just put that right back on. While I have the menu open, I'm going to put on the Holy Glasses, and yeah. So one of the downsides of playing a SotN randomizer is you essentially start with like randomized gear, but if you don't have great gear, the fun of like upgrading gear throughout the run is very interesting. But what usually ends up happening is once you find something that is good enough to beat the game, you kind of just rock with that for the rest of the run, just because it's faster. And for us, we basically have the best options in the game. The only thing we don't have is a library card here, and it's getting to the point now where we're running out of options for the library card to even save us time, because I think we're on our way to the second castle after this. And we have checked everything we can in the first castle. If I'm not mistaken, I can double check using this nifty little tracker here. Yeah, because the map isn't showing that we checked Merman statue, but we did. Oh, Scylla. We never fought Scylla. Or Succubus, sorry. Succubus. We never fought Succubus and checked what she has, so I can go do that. Just to make 100% sure that I'm not leaving anything behind. So right there, we got our final relic here, the Rib of Vlad. I'll update the tracker here in just a second during this elevator ride. So we have 3 Vlads. That is very, very... I think it has to be, if I did the count correctly, the final Vlad, which is great for us because we know now that we're not leaving anything behind as far as the complexity chain goes. So anything else that we need to beat the game, which at this point is just the Heart of Vlad and the Ring of Vlad, those 2 items are available just randomly somewhere in the game. I'm going to go back for this, actually. There we go. Go ahead and give myself the stopwatch because it is a useful sub-weapon. It's one of the most useful sub-weapons in the game. So, where am I going? I completely like spaced out there for a second. Oops. I was too busy thinking about my second castle route. But yeah, we need to go do Succubus. Succubus is down here. Yeah, it was calculated. I went out of my way to get the stopwatch. Of course, yes. Another duplicate. Okay, this seed is... I promise you this is not a vetted seed. I just pulled one at random. Wow, that's very funny. This seed had 2 duplicators. Very, very low odds of that. You might be asking, what happens if you equip 2 duplicators? Well, it becomes the quadruplicator. You see, this is a joke. It doesn't actually do anything. Having 1 is the same as having 2 on. All it does is lower your stats even more. So we have the fight with the Succubus in the Nightmare Realm, and she has the potential to give us a relic drop or an item. Or, yep, I'm glad I went back for this. Well, that is required to beat the game. This is something that can happen in randomizer races quite often, is... you can kind of make certain predictions, or as I like to call them, gambles, on where certain relics can or cannot be. And sometimes you don't give yourself 100% certainty, so you'll go out of your way for a check that ends up having nothing, which wastes you time, or you do the opposite, which is you skip a location that has the potential to be something that you need, but you just say, it won't be there. So if I, for example, just said, you know what, it's faster at this point in the route to just leave Succubus behind, that is a strategy that you can go for in a randomizer race. But in doing so, you leave yourself the potential to, you know, leave behind something that is 100% required. So I'm very, very glad that I went back for that. Here I'm just backtracking through the mines so I can get to a warp room. Hey, get out of here. So I can warp to the castle keep and enter the second castle. And this is where the randomizer gets really fun, which is we are looking for exactly one Vlad relic, which at this point can be anywhere in the second castle. The only thing we know about the second castle is that there is the spike breaker in there, because spike breaker is required in logic before you can get to the silver ring. And we know that holy glasses is one of the steps in the complexity chain. So ergo, because of the randomizer logic, we know that spike breaker exists somewhere in the second castle. The other thing we know is because we have checked everything else here in the first castle. Actually, we didn't check everything. I'm just now realizing that I never checked the Soul of Bat location. So it could be there as well. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, Soul of Bat is a random chance to be a Vlad relic as well. But in this situation, without a library card, there's not like a super convenient way to go back there and check. And it's also very possible that I find a library card to just warp there immediately. It's unfortunate we never found one. So we didn't do that location, and then we don't have the merman statue in our inventory, so we cannot go to the holy symbol location that is locked by the merman statue. That's another place where the relic could be. That's another random location that the relic could be. But the highest odds are it's just chilling somewhere here in the second castle. There's 10 different checks. One of them has to be spike breaker. But other than that, all the other checks are just completely random. So I'm going to do a couple of items here because it's a pretty high density of item checks in this location. Honestly, just hoping to find a library card, which will make my routing easier. Unfortunately, did not find one. Here's a funny little clip you can do through the stairs. Whoop. So I can check this item, which is Mojo Mail, a cool item, but not that useful. Do some more item checks. Just hoping to find a library card. And there it is. All right, well, now we have everything we need to make sure we don't leave anything behind. And in fact, I'll probably save the library card for the very end of the run in case we need to go back to the first castle. Very awesome. This is another fun part of the randomizer now, is the route you take in the second castle is kind of up to you. There's not really one set in stone, quote unquote, optimal route, because it all just depends on where the relic is. Obviously, getting to the relic sooner is the fastest way to beat the game now, but we don't know where it is. It's completely random, so we're just going to be checking as many options as fast as we can, and that is nothing. So any relic that is replaced with nothing gets an empty hand item, which is very funny. It's literally nothing, but the game has to spawn something there, so what I'm going to be doing is the right side route, where we do the right side of the inverted castle first. Some people opt to go left side. It truly is kind of a 50-50 in a way, where the quote-unquote better route just comes down to where the relic is. There's different pluses and minuses for different routes. I personally like the right side route. Some people prefer the left side route. One thing we can do here is eliminate some of the slowdown by leaving the room and coming back. And wow, there it is. So alternatively, this seed could have been about 10 to 15 minutes longer by me having to go through and do every check in the game in the second castle. Or you could just find it very early in the second castle, like I just did, and win the game. In a race scenario, this is where your opponent tells you, oh, dang, I went left side. And if they went left side, they're in big trouble. This is one of those rooms where having the stopwatch is very useful because these enemies are very annoying. So just being able to stop them in time is very nice. It also helps with the slowdown in that room. That room slows down a lot without the stopwatch. So now I'm just going to the end of the game as fast as I can. So we're going to be doing that right now, avoiding any boss fights or unnecessary enemies. There we go. Yeah, because we have everything we need to beat the game here. Our damage is really high. Our movement options are very, very strong. We even had the library card to cover in case that we needed to go back to the first castle, which is always a nice option to have. Otherwise, moving between the castles can be very slow. So, honestly, a very, very strong seed here. Randomizer seeds can vary from like 40 minutes, like a good seed like this, all the way up to like an hour and 5 for a very, very bad seed. So there is quite a bit of a range. Obviously, in like a marathon scenario, the seed will be vetted to have like an average completion time that is applicable to the time estimate. as to prevent like finishing 20 minutes early or 20 minutes late. All that fun stuff. But yeah, we found all 5 Vlad relics, which is what opens up this room here to get to the end of the game. There are 2 boss fights left. We are missing out on a lot of the content in the second castle, and that is one of the nice things that also exists with the random starting locations, is sometimes you can start in the second castle, and in doing so, you have to fight your way out of the second castle at a very low level. It's very, very interesting. A very, very cool way to play through the game, in my opinion. So here I'm just going to optimize for damage with my Buffalo Star and Cross Shuriken. Just throw stars at these guys until they go down, and they go down very, very fast. That is the second to last boss in the game, being beaten in mere seconds. And here we are loading into the final fight of the game versus Dracula. This fight can be quite tricky depending on your gear, especially if your weapon strength isn't high enough. You'll have to fight him over multiple cycles where he gets even more dangerous. But here we should easily 1 cycle before he leaves the screen. So he's going to swipe his hands a few times, maybe 3 times. And time should be coming up here right now. Wow, time. Time. So yeah, a 45-minute seed, definitely on the faster end. Like I said, the only difference between a seed like this that finishes this fast and a seed that finishes slower generally comes down to where you find the random Vlads. Since basically 1 Vlad is considered the final Vlad, we can kind of calculate where that one is. All the other ones are completely random, so you have to just kind of search throughout the castle for it. If you find those random Vlads early, you can finish in like 40 minutes, and if it takes you going through the entirety of the second castle, that's like another 15 minutes added to the playtime here. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. Thank you for watching, and yeah, I'll see you around. Bye-bye.